Good afternoon, and welcome to Daniel Robertson's senior speech. At this time, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Daniel's parents, Martha and Herb Robertson, his grandparents, Tom and Lee Robertson, and Danny and Crystal Craig, and his younger siblings, Ann Catherine, Betty, and Stephen. Daniel entered Augusta Prep in the 10th grade and became an active member of the science club. Later that spring, Daniel's mere presence helped the school to be able to field a baseball team. Since then, Daniel's become a part of Augusta Prep's Model UN group. And while he's not yet decided on what college he will attend next fall, Daniel intends to study mechanical engineering. Meanwhile, outside of Augusta Prep, Daniel has been involved in the Boy Scouts for the past 7 years. Currently a Life Scout, he is diligently pursuing his Eagle Badge. Now, please welcome Daniel Robertson to the podium.
I think it shows I'm pretty nervous, but let's get started. Firstly, I'd like to start by saying thank you to my senior class, who took me in during my time of transitioning schools. I'd like to say thank you to all of my teachers who believed in me and pushed me along, as without the wonderful teachers that I've experienced at prep, I simply would not be the same person who I am today. I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Boyd for being a phenomenal advisor these past 3 years, and an even better history teacher, instilling in me a love of European history that I don't think I can forget soon, even if I try. Finally, I'd like to thank my family, my parents for putting my education above anything else, my siblings for always being there for me, and particularly my brothers for always having my back, no matter how much, and shaping me into the person I am today. Brotherhood, fraternity. Among the most inseparable bonds there are, yet remarkably hard to define. If I showed you these two pictures, most people would draw the conclusion that they simply show two young, well-dressed men in an antique photograph. However, when looking into who these young men were, we realized that these are incredibly famous pairs of brothers. Walter and Roy Disney, the founders of the Walt Disney Company, and Wilbur and Orville Wright, commonly known as the Wright brothers, brilliant inventors and engineers responsible for the first motorized plane. What is fraternity? Why is it important? What does it entail? Fraternity as a word first began being used in the early 14th century, stemming from the French word fraternité, which as a Romance language, the root comes from a word in Latin. Although commonly associated with males and stemming from the Latin words frater and fraternitas, meaning brother and brotherhood, the word fraternity does not solely have to be amongst men. It is commonly defined along the lines of a form of endearment or camaraderie amongst a group of people. I'm the second oldest in a large family, with one older brother, 2 younger sisters, 1 little brother, and another brother due in April. I chose to do my senior speech on fraternity for many reasons, partially because all of my siblings have changed my life an incredible amount, yet my older brother has always helped me along this path the most, and he was the only sibling who I had from when I was born to age 6. However, the first time that I truly realized that I had to do my senior speech on this topic was last year in Mr. Miller's motorsports class. My classmates and I were talking about siblings, and I was looking through my phone for a picture of my older brother, Thomas. After looking for about 5 minutes, I found one. A single photo of my older brother, whom I had known for 16 years, that was so old that my then 19-year-old brother was still wearing braces in the photo. When realizing this, it hurt me more than you could imagine, and I knew for my own sake that I needed to make up for this. That's when I truly decided that this would have to be my senior speech topic. Now, many people who grew up without any brothers would likely look at this picture depicted of my younger brother Stephen being carried on my older brother Thomas's shoulders, and they would think that that would encapsulate what it's like to have a brother, but at least in my family, it would look a little more like this. My brother and I have never been very much alike in any way, shape, or form. My brother has always been more bold and extroverted than me, a natural-born leader, which has led him to take up business, starting his first business in his early teens. I, on the other hand, have always been more quiet and contemplative, preferring puzzles and games I could play from a very young age, like jigsaw puzzles or solitaire to test my brain. However, as I stated earlier, fraternity is not strictly among blood brothers, but can rather be defined by Oxford Dictionary as, quote, the feeling of friendship and mutual support within a group. Fraternity also plays an integral part in any community or group, particularly when going through times of hardship. In fact, in Jewish and Christian texts, it is stated in Proverbs 17:17 that, quote, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Brother, of course, in this context is being used to describe any person who shares any close bond or relationship with you. Fraternity has also been noted time and time again as one of the major forces and components when a group of people is going through a time of hardship. As Dr. Martin Luther King quotes, we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools, in a speech in St. Louis, 1964, during the American Civil Rights Movement. However, many notable writers, such as Victor Hugo and William Shakespeare, have written on how important brotherhood and fraternity is among military members as well, with Hugo writing that, quote, great perils have this fine characteristic, that they bring to light the fraternity of strangers, in his 1864 book, Les Miserables, which details a man's trek to righteousness during the uprisings of the Parisian Revolution in 1832. Along with Hugo, Shakespeare writes on this phenomenon in Act 4, Scene 3 of his play, Henry V, saying, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today that sheds blood with me shall be my brother. Bonds of fraternity through times of hardship would hit home even more so than this, however, in the story of the 2014 Augusta Prep varsity football team. Mrs. Pilot was kind enough to share with me this story as her son was on the team, and it truly is a phenomenal story. The seniors on this team would have known each other for about 5 years since they started playing football together in 8th grade, which is the first year that Prep had a football team. However, throughout these years of being companions, these young lads had faced incredible times of hardship, including being inexperienced kids, unequipped with a football field, and only having about 20 people on their team, meaning that these young boys would play offense and defense in both games, in both sides in each game, sorry. These young men, however, through their bonds of brotherhood and fraternity, formed friendships amongst each other that will never be broken, using dedication and intellect to drive their team forward. Throughout these years, several of these young men lost their parents, and the entire football team made it a point to come to the funeral dressed as a unit in their high school football jerseys, consoling their fellow brother through his time of adversity. These boys fought tooth and nail to build a football stadium with lice for the 2014 season against all surrounding neighborhoods that were adamantly against its construction. And through extreme hardship and dedication to the cause, they were finally able to fight for their beliefs and get the county to approve their request. And upon building the stadium, showcased a metal rafter at the entrance inscribed with the word family to remind people exactly who these young men were to each other. However, their real story starts in preparation for the 2014 state championship. Both the starting quarterback and running back had sustained broken bones in days prior, meaning that they didn't have either of these young boys to play for them in the playoffs, and rather shoved in a sophomore with almost no experience as their quarterback. Through extreme dedication and brotherhood amongst the players, adamant that they had the closest bond imaginable and that they would be the greatest, these boys fought mercilessly for their title. In triple overtime, the 2014 Prep team won the state championship and thus grew one of the greatest underdog stories Prep has ever seen. In short, fraternity is among the most close bonds we can have with each other. It can be a driving force for humanity and is closely tied amongst each other in close bonds of brotherhood and fraternity. In my 3 years at Prep, I can confidently say that my senior class has become much like a second family to me, in that they took me in during the hard time of my transition into 10th grade and transitioning into schools, and treated me as one of their own. I am ever grateful to all members of my senior class, as without them, I simply would not have the courage to be up here today. Thank you all for listening. And I hope you all